JonesCountyStories.com.
My name is Chip Irby. I've lived in Jones County for about 15, 16 years. I was born in Mississippi. I've been pretty politically active in Jones County, especially about 6 years ago. Our property taxes went up about 42% on average, and so I started a group called United for Responsible Government. We got some people removed from office. So I raised quite a stink back then, and I went and filed a report at the sheriff's office. I was physically threatened twice by 2 county supervisors. So that may be where some of this, stems from, is old retribution. My ordeal with Jones County began back in October of last year. I took out a small mortgage on the building I was living in, and my plan was to basically take it to court to test and expose the fraudulent mortgage and banking laws and regulations. So I purposefully defaulted on my mortgage and expected an eviction. Stayed in constant contact with the local constable that handles those evictions, and on the day that, and he continually told me there was no eviction schedule, and on the day that the eviction should have taken place, rather than a constable show up for a simple eviction, I had a SWAT team with about 20 or 30 deputies involved. I stood at the front door like this, hands open, facing the door, told them I wasn't going to resist, had no weapons, had no intent to harm anybody. My mom had a video camera. They broke in the door with a big, a steel battering ram, rushed in, threw me to the ground, stomped on my back, and did all their moves they like to do with pressure points and all that stuff. As I was being hauled out, the chief deputy told my mother that I was a terrorist. And that comes from the fact they wound up bringing ATF in. The rumors around town were that I was a drug dealer and a terrorist going to blow up half of downtown Laurel, because I have a few vehicles that I bought from the U.S. government that are old military vehicles with diesel engines, and I was using used French fry grease, filtering it to make fuel for my diesel engines. So apparently the used French fry grease made me a terrorist. So I think all these McDonald's and all these other restaurants need to look out for Sheriff Alex Hodge. He's probably gonna come lock them all up for being terrorists. At first they told me I wasn't gonna be arrested because the bank was not pressing trespass charges. They just had to get me out of the building. And I told them through the door that, I wasn't resisting, I just wasn't gonna willingly give up my property, but that I planned to just do it all in court. Next thing I know, I'm going to jail, and they told me I could bond out within a couple hours, but I had to produce government-issued identification in order to bond out, which my pockets were empty when they arrested me, so I didn't have any government-issued ID. Everything in my building, my home, was seized, so couldn't get any government-issued ID. Then I was put on ACO, attorney contact only, which I didn't have an attorney. About a week into it, I was put in solitary confinement. I heard that the sheriff was trying to have me committed for insanity. At that point, I was able to make a phone call. I called my mom, told her to get some witnesses, some friends that could vouch for my sanity. 12 days later, after I was arrested, or kidnapped as I like to say, because I was not legally arrested, I was kidnapped. I had a sanity hearing. There was no judge, as I believe the state law requires. There was a local attorney that was appointed to oversee the hearing. They had a psychiatrist and a psychologist interview me a couple days before. Both of their reports stated very clearly that these were legal issues, not sanity issues. There's just all these conflicts of interest. Again, the attorney that oversaw my sanity hearing, he had bid on my building on the courthouse steps. My understanding is that state law requires that a sanity hearing be held within 72 hours after you're taken into custody. Mine was 12 days. I understand from other local law enforcement people, or cops basically, that Sanity charges have never been brought against anybody in Jones County by law enforcement. It's always done by family members. So, why the sheriff did this, still nobody knows. The affidavit that he filed with the court to have the writ of commitment issued was fraudulent. Every statement he made began with reportedly, which admits hearsay. He never investigated anything. One of his statements was, reportedly Mr. Irby has items in his possession which can be used to harm others. Okay, anybody got car keys or a pencil? You can kill somebody with a pencil. So the whole thing is just a fraud on its face. The Chancery judge, the Chancery court was complicit in the fraud. The writ of commitment obviously never should have been issued. After they let me out, somebody told me I needed to go and get a copy of my arrest sheet because that would have my inmate number on it, which was important to have. So I went down there 2 days later to get it, and the lady that was going to give it to me, her printer wouldn't work. So she called the head jailer and told him what I wanted, and he refused to give it to me. It's a public document. And so I just looked at her and I said, well, could you at least give me my inmate number? She looked at her computer screen, looked back at me with a real puzzled look on her face and said, well, you don't have an inmate number. I said, well, you saw me here for 12 days. She said, yeah, but you were never charged with anything, so we couldn't issue an inmate number. So according to her, I was held for 12 days with no charges. I go back to Jones County as little as I possibly can. The emotional impact of all this has been pretty severe. Got 2 lawsuits being filed right now, and possibly a third and maybe a fourth. So see if we can get some justice out of these courts. Obviously go to federal court. These are constitutional issues as well as federal and state issues. There's all kind of constitutional issues and federal statutes that have clearly been broken. Kidnapping's illegal no matter what law you look at. So the bottom line is, Jones County's out of control.